A lot of people think that Mushoku Tensei is just another Isekai story. Reincarnation, swords, magic, fan service, and a perfect protagonist. And honestly, on the surface, it can kind of look that way. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Because Mushoku Tensei isn't really just about another world. It's about what you do when life gives you a second chance, and whether you're brave enough to seize that chance with both hands, to change. I've been watching anime for my entire life, and I've been analyzing and exploring series on this channel for years. But there are a few series that have impacted me quite like this one. Mushoku Tensei as a series has really led me to reflect on how I view things like regret and growth. It's not just great, it's powerful. And in this video, I'm breaking down those central themes: regret, second chances, one's ability to change, and a few of the hidden redemption arcs behind Mushoku Tensei that highlight these themes. How characters like Rudeus, Eris, Ghislaine, and others evolve in ways that many anime never even attempt. This isn't just an anime, it's a mirror. Let's talk about it. Mushoku Tensei at its core is a redemption story that highlights the power of second chances. And through the characters we come across, we see that redemption can come in many forms. I think oftentimes when you hear the word redemption, our minds can go to a truly epic place. We think of that all-encompassing final redemption, that Vegeta blowing himself up in an attempt to defeat Majin Buu kind. But what does redemption mean exactly? Redemption is defined as the act of redeeming or atoning for a fault or mistake. Essentially, redemption is really about making things right when given the opportunity, whether that be with yourself or the people around you. Mushoku Tensei is full of characters that have seized their second chance, their opportunity for redemption, with both hands, and changed for the better. Characters like Rudeus, Eris, Ghislaine, and even Sylphie. Let's start with Rudeus. As the titular character, the change we see in the man who would become Rudeus Greyrat is the most prevalent, because it's him we the audience are following for the most part. Rudeus in his past life was a rather unlikable shut-in. While the initial trauma that led to that state wasn't his fault, the way he became in the decades following was. This had led him to live a jobless life full of regret, a life he couldn't really see his way out of. Once again, Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, cleverly hides the core themes right in front of us. Because at the very surface, what does it mean to be jobless? Simply put, it means to lack a purpose in life. His opportunity for redemption, his second chance, came in the form of his final selfless act that led to him being reincarnated, Jobless Reincarnation, into another world. There's a lesson here. Though, look man, I'm not saying we should be looking to get hit by a truck to accomplish it. What I'm saying is this: sometimes a change in setting is necessary to help us change who we are. Many times, our existing surroundings can serve to really shackle us to past trauma, and can make it difficult to grow and move past the things we've been hurt by. And it doesn't have to just be trauma. It can be habits we developed, people we're interacting with, a job, and a whole plethora of other things. Barriers to positive change can come in a variety of forms that are tied to your setting. And a change in surroundings, if possible, can often be one of the first steps in the right direction. But what really and truly spurs change? As illustrated by Rudeus and the other characters we come across, a change in mindset is always necessary to fully take advantage of new opportunities and second chances. We see him come to terms with this at the end of the first episode of Season 1. As he sits there, celebrating with Roxy and his family, he determines to take advantage of this second chance, and to put forth whatever effort is necessary to be better than he was in his last life, to be more than he was before. This change in mindset, and Rudy recognizes this, is crucial because without it, the change in setting and the opportunity it provides could easily amount to nothing. And this is also why we see the great regard for and reverence that he holds for Roxy. I talk about this in depth in my Why Roxy is So Special to Rudeus video that I'll link to in the comments below. But even after determining to switch his mindset and put in the effort necessary to change, Rudeus recognizes that some of his past trauma still has a hold on him. This is a final barrier that he's struggling with, a fear of going outside. And Roxy helps him to knock down those final walls in a subtle but spectacular fashion. But even then, embracing Roxy and believing fully in the trust he had for her to overcome these last barriers really required him to lean fully into his own overall change in mindset. Doing this unshackles him and leaves him as a person that then goes on to be the agent of positive change in other people's lives. The lesson continues to be clear: who you are is not who you have to remain. Oh, and if you're enjoying this breakdown so far, and you love Mushoku Tensei and anime deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button. I break down stories like this every week. Now, let's talk about Eris and her change, her redemption. Look, the Eris that we meet is rough around the edges. And that's a ridiculous understatement, I know, but you get my point. She's foul-tempered, rude, violent, selfish, and literally illiterate. Like, she can't read, which is wild because she comes from a noble family. She was so bad, in fact, that not only had she run off multiple tutors attempting to teach her, she had gained a reputation in noble circles as a child that was completely out of control and probably wouldn't amount to much. And that's nicer than how we see them put it. Eris's change is gradual, with a whole lot of carrot and some stick. Rudeus comes into her life, and after a change in mindset, things begin to turn around. Rudeus, who had himself become an agent in positive change due to the change he had been able to make in his own life due to someone believing in him, believes in her. Despite their explosive first meeting, Rudeus is able to see through her, figures out the best way to get his point across, with a few hiccups along the way, and ultimately reaches her. Eris experiences a change in mindset, spurred on by Rudeus' persistence with her. Things like reading, writing, and math were skills she really thought she ultimately wouldn't need, or at least that's how she portrayed it. However, once Rudeus was able to leverage Ghislaine and her adventure past, a person Eris had a great admiration for, and a profession Eris found exciting, Ghislaine, using her own past experiences to highlight just how important these skills are, presented the paradigm shift necessary for Eris to embrace these subjects that she struggled with. We see this pattern repeated over and over again, as Eris' change in mindset takes her from a person that was wild and a bit of an embarrassment from a noble perspective, to a person that shone brightly at her debut birthday party. Eris' growth and development truly become a joy to see as we follow them through the mana disaster and their multi-year journey back from the demon continent. She becomes an absolute force with the sword, and a person capable of a deep sense of love and empathy. All of this backed by a true poise and desire to improve herself. We see this highlighted further when her and Rudeus finally make it back to Roa, and she learns the fate of her family. Eris takes it all in with a grace that's beyond admirable, and ultimately makes a decision for her and Rudeus that she wouldn't have been capable of had she not changed who she was as a person. Deciding to leave on a training journey with Ghislaine, drastically changing her setting and separating from the person she had come to love dearly to grow stronger, not out of selfishness, but out of a desire to protect him in the future, is further evidence of this. Once again, Mushoku Tensei and the theme it presents are clear. Who you are is not who you have to remain. Moving forward, let's talk about Ghislaine and her change, her redemption. The Ghislaine that we meet in the series is calm, composed, and very, very powerful. A Sword King level swordsman and an S-ranked adventurer. More than that, she's a person that doesn't hesitate to be tutored in magic and other academics by Rudeus, and dives into her education with gusto. Not only that, she's an enthusiastic sword tutor for both Eris and Rudy, and takes the time to teach Rudy the Beast God language when he asks her. She even uses examples from her past to encourage Eris to take her own education seriously, like I mentioned earlier, and works hard to be a great mentor and bodyguard to her. This is obvious in the complete love and respect we see Eris has for her from the onset. And not just Eris. Ghislaine is highly respected by the members of her former adventuring party, Rudeus' parents, and the Greyride family as a whole. Ghislaine is the epitome of everything one could hope to be in a world like Mushoku Tensei. Confident, competent, powerful, humble, and a person that cares about the people around them. A complete badass. However, she wasn't always this way. As Rudeus, Eris, and Rajur continue their journey back from the demon continent and end up in the Doldia village, we're introduced to Ghislaine's family, and we learned an interesting fact. Ghislaine in her youth was a menace. Like Eris, she was foul-tempered, rude, mean as hell, and caused an endless amount of drama for the people around her. So much so that the villagers, her brother included, had completely written her off. Had that been the end of it, we never would have gotten the Ghislaine we see in the series. Instead, a second chance, an opportunity for redemption, presented itself to her, and she seized it. A wandering sword master happened to be making his way through the Doldia village, met her, and took her under his wing. Together they would leave the village, and she would spend the next years training and growing into the Ghislaine we know and love. Years later, when her family hears about the person she's become, and how highly regarded she is, they're shocked, and in her brother's case, completely disbelieving. Once again, through Ghislaine, Mushoku Tensei does a magnificent job of highlighting its main theme, and all the components are there. A change in mindset and setting were necessary for Ghislaine to grow into the individual she is presently. Being willing to be taught by her swordmaster, and leaving the Doldia village to continue her tutelage were essential to her overcoming her faults, were essential to her redemption. Ghislaine, with the help of her master, realized on some level that this was an opportunity for a second chance, and seized it with both hands. And more than that, she put in the work necessary, the effort required to change herself for the better, and became an absolute force to be reckoned with. Who you are is not who you have to remain. And what's great about that is that people who have changed themselves for the better, who have seized second chances, often go on to be agents of positive change in the lives of others. It's a circle, a gift that keeps on giving. Mushoku Tensei is truly a masterclass that distinguishes itself as a series when it comes to the nuance of a theme like this, and works to serve as an inspiration to us, the audience. The lives of the characters I just mentioned, and a plethora of others, like Paul, Sylphie, and more, illustrate this over and over again. People can change, and who you are is not who you have to remain. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want more Mushoku Tensei deep dives like this one, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you on the next one.